Welcome to Bad at Goodbyes. Each week on our show, we spotlight species from the IUCN Critically Endangered Red List. These are plants and animals with decreasing populations, nearing the edges of extinction. We'll share species research, information, and conservation proposals, and then we'll spend the end of the show opening a space for contemplation and awe. We'll improvise a soundscape of gentleness, of reflection, of delight, and also perhaps of grieving. Without conservation activity and significant societal shift, many of these species may not survive the 21st century. And so, perhaps we might acknowledge their journey with a moment of our attention, a recognition of our kinship, and with a commitment to both personal and systemic change. Thank you for listening. On today's show, we consider the Kathalekan Marsh Nut. The Kathalekan Marsh Nut is a critically endangered flowering tree native to the southwest of India in the marshlands of the Western Ghats. Its scientific name is Semecarpus kathalekanensis, and it's a member of the cashew family. It was first described in the year 2000. The Kathalekan Marsh Nut is a medium-sized tropical evergreen tree that grows between 65 and 95 feet tall. It has smooth grayish-brown bark marked by raised lenticels. These are little bumps, rounded, protruding pores which allow for gas exchange with the surrounding atmosphere. The tree takes in oxygen and releases carbon dioxide. At first, that may seem a little confusing. I think that we often think of green plants as consuming carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. That's also true. So green plants have two distinct metabolic processes: respiration and photosynthesis. Plants, like nearly all life, breathe continuously, like day and night. This is cellular respiration, a process of taking in oxygen to help break down glucose, which releases energy for the plant's growth, maintenance, and water and nutrient transport. The byproduct of this process is carbon dioxide, which is released into the atmosphere. So that's respiration. Then photosynthesis is the process of converting light into chemical energy, which the plant then stores as glucose. This primarily occurs in leaf cells and requires the presence of light, the intake of carbon dioxide, and then the release of oxygen as a byproduct. So during the day, photosynthesis generally occurs at a much higher rate than respiration. And though during the nighttime, like when there's no light and photosynthesis is paused, respiration continues, but overall there is a greater net intake of carbon dioxide and greater net release of oxygen. So to put this simply, green plants during respiration breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. And during photosynthesis, they breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen, but with an overall gas exchange in which more carbon dioxide is consumed and more oxygen is released. So then to circle back, leaves are the primary site of photosynthetic gas exchange, and the lenticels on the bark are the primary site of respiratory gas exchange. The leaves of the Kathalekan Marsh Nut are huge. They grow in an alternating pattern from the branch, from a 4-inch petiole, that's the leaf stalk. The leaf blades can grow over 3 feet in length and roughly 9 inches in width. The leaves are oblong-shaped, have a slightly wavy, smooth, entire margin, and come to an apex peak, meaning that they have a pointed tip on the end. The Kathalekan Marsh Nut grows specialized root structures called stilt roots and pneumatophores. Stilt roots grow from the lower trunk and branch downwards into the ground, providing structural support in the soft, waterlogged, swampy soil of their habitat. Pneumatophores, also called knee roots, grow upwards out of the water, and then once above the waterline, loop downwards back into the marsh bed. These pneumatophores, like the trunk, are also covered in lenticels, which, again, facilitate gas exchange, allowing the roots to breathe, to acquire oxygen above the waterline. In the dream, in the wet, blanketing heat, at the shrine of the old gods, I breathe with the elder trees. This ancient trade of air, of living, a community of reliances, a negotiation of water and oxygen, a millennia of perpetual promises. And in the dream, at the shrine, I pray. I recommit myself to the ancient compact. I breathe the same prayer again and again forever and always, for peace. In the dream. The Kathalekan Marsh Nut is trioecious, meaning that some individuals are male, some are female, and some rare individuals produce both male and female flowers. From roughly December to February, the greenish flowers grow in elongated branching flower clusters, inflorescences. Male inflorescences can reach roughly 1.5 feet in length, though the female inflorescences are shorter, roughly 6 inches in length. These flowers are pollinated by avian species like the sunbird, the black drongo, and the common hill myna, and by the endangered Malabar tree nymph butterfly. Following successful pollination, the female flowers produce a drupe. This is a stone fruit, like plum, cherry, olive, or even cashew, with an exocarp, that's the skin, a mesocarp, that's the fleshy part, and an endocarp, that's the hard pit or stone which contains the seed. The marsh nut's fruit is kidney-shaped and roughly an inch in size. Research on the Kathalekan Marsh Nut seed dispersal is thin, though anecdotal evidence suggests the Malabar gray hornbill and the endangered lion-tail macaque may play a role, consuming the fruit and distributing the seed in their excrement. Forest mammals like the Malabar giant squirrel, the Malabar spiny dormouse, and the white-bellied woodrat are dispensers of other fruit-bearing species in this habitat and likely may also contribute to marsh nut seed dispersal. Their seeds are ralcatrent, meaning they will not germinate if dried out or exposed to cold temperatures. And in the case of the marsh nut, seeds are only viable for roughly 1 week, making broad dispersal in their habitat challenging. The Kathalekan marsh nut is native to Western India in the Uttara Kannada district in the state of Karnataka near the Sharavati River in the eastern foothills of the central Western Ghats, a mountain range near the coast of the Indian Ocean. The marsh nut grows below 700 feet above sea level in 6 discrete subpopulations, occupying a total land area of under 10 square miles. It's found in highly specialized freshwater marsh forests called Myristica swamps. These are low-lying, perpetually wet valleys and floodplains of warm, moist, lush, tropical evergreen forests with trees rising directly out of still or slow-moving waters. Canopy is dense and closed, with a dim, humid understory and a forest floor of ferns, sedges, and herbaceous plants adapted to these waterlogged soils. Myristica swamps are ancient forests with plant life that can trace lineage to the late Cretaceous period, roughly 80 million years ago. These are biodiversity hotspots and play a vital role in carbon sequestration, water filtration, and flood regulation. So these swamps act as natural sponges, absorbing water during the rainy season and slowly releasing it during the dry season, helping to regulate water flow and prevent floods. Because this is a tropical monsoon climate with heavy rainfall during the monsoon season, roughly June to September. Annual rainfall exceeds 100 inches per year and can be as high as roughly 200 inches in localized areas. It is hot and humid, summer highs cresting 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and winter lows rarely dropping below 60 degrees. The Kathalekan Marsh Nut shares its Myristica swamp home with Conara nutmeg, Malabar whistling thrush, dancing frog, blistering varnish tree, black drongo, stream ruby, jog night frog, Asian short-clawed otter, Malabar giant squirrel, Malabar spiny dormouse, paradise flycatcher, Indian wild boar, tiny night frog, Malabar tree nymph, spindle tree, Myristica swamp frog, white-bellied woodrat, samba deer, crimson-backed sunbird, Malabar trogon, wild nutmeg, Gunther's supple skink, Indian birch, Malabar pit viper, white-bellied tree pie, Malabar nutmeg, lion-tailed macaque, and many, many more. The primary historic threats to the Kathalekan Marsh Nut have been habitat destruction and fragmentation from human agriculture and infrastructure development. So, land cleared for crops, specifically areca nut plantations, rivers dammed for water use, and highways cutting through the forests. Today, Myristica swamps are highly fragmented into tiny pockets, isolating the remaining marsh nut populations. And today, agriculture and development continue to be an issue. Water diversion for agricultural irrigation is lowering the water table, and parts of the swamps are seeing dry season desiccation meaning they are drying up completely, which of course threatens the marsh nut that relies on that water. Additionally, overgrazing and trampling by domesticated cattle has been observed to affect Kathalekan Marsh Nut seedlings in particular. The young trees are consumed or destroyed before reaching reproductive maturity. Regarding infrastructure development, a new proposed highway expansion directly threatens one of the marsh nut's subpopulations. Ecosystemic balance is also a concern. As mentioned, the marsh nut relies on an endangered butterfly, the Malabar tree nymph, for pollination, and an endangered monkey, the lion-tailed macaque, for seed dispersal. And so, reduction in the population of those species will then reduce potential reproduction opportunities for the Kathalekan marsh nut. And human-induced climate change presents a long-term threat. As global warming from continued reliance on fossil fuels affects weather patterns, shift in monsoon and dry season severities will impact the marsh nut's habitat, leading to further degradation and species loss. Fortunately, much of the Kathalekan marsh nut's habitat is on protected land, like the Sharavati Valley Wildlife Sanctuary, and conservation action focused on the endangered lion-tailed macaque has indirectly aided the marsh nut. Efforts to conserve the macaque's habitat has brought ecosystemic and legal protection to the marsh nut as well. The marsh nut also benefits from a fascinating informal protection. Much of its habitat overlaps with sacred sites, and one will find small shrines to local deities tucked into the swamp. Local beliefs discourage the logging or disturbance of these areas, thus helping preserve the Myristica swamps, the marsh nut's habitat. Recent work by the College of Forestry Circe is successfully cultivating the Kathalekan marsh nut in nurseries offsite, and a reforestation program replanting the species in its native habitat is underway. Nevertheless, the Kathalekan marsh nut has been considered critically endangered on the IUCN Red List since 2021. And their long-term population trend is considered in decline. Our most recent counts estimate that less than 120 and likely less than 50 reproducing adult Kathalekan marsh nut remain in the wild. Information for today's show about the Kathalekan Marsh Nut was compiled from Bioremediation, Biodiversity and Bioavailability number 4, from the Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund, from the Conservation Leadership Program, Care of BirdLife International, from Down to Earth, January 2008, from the documentary film Exploring the Mysterious World of Freshwater Swamps, from the IUCN, from Jalplavit, Volume 15, Number 1, from Planta Medica, Volume 77, from the Restoration Methodologies and Conservation Strategies Conference, 2002, from the Wetlands Ecology and Management, Volume 30, and from Wikipedia. For more information about Kathalekan Marsh Nut and Myristica Swamp Conservation, see the Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and the Environment at atree.org, atree.org. And so now I would like to perform some music in hopes of opening a space to be in contemplation of all of the other lives with whom we share our fragile earth. I do not intend to put meaning upon or extract meaning from the Kathalekan Marsh Nut. Instead, I want this music to be an expression of my awe and a moment to consider my own relationship to other life, in particular, as that life may near extinction. And so I will sit in the space of sound and awe and reflection, and I warmly invite you to join me. I honor the life force of the Kathalekan Marsh Nut. I will commit its name to my record. I am so grateful to have shared time on our planet with this beautiful being. And I lament the ways in which I and my species have harmed and diminished this species. I grieve. And so in the name of the Kathalekan Marsh Nut, I pledge to reduce my consumption, my carbon footprint, and my wastefulness. I pledge to acknowledge and attempt to address the costs of my actions and inactions. And I pledge to resist the harm of plant and animal kin and their habitats by individuals, corporations, and governments. I forever pledge my song to the witness and memory of all life, to a broad celebration of biodiversity, and to the total liberation of all beings everywhere. This has been Bad at Goodbyes. Thank you for listening. Until next time, let's take care of each other and all of our kin. Goodbye.